Super Mario 64 came out about 24 years ago and is still alive and kicking with an active player base. Its remake, on the other hand, doesn't get that much attention, so I thought that for this one, we'd give it some time in the spotlight. I'm DPadGamer, and in this video we'll be looking at a bunch of neat glitches in Super Mario 64 DS. Starting out in Bomb Battlefield, I'd like to introduce you to an interesting quirk with this game's physics. Let's hop into the cannon in the field after the chained chomp, and aim all the way to the right and up so that we can only see the very top of the tree. If you fire out of the cannon like so and hold up on the D-pad, boom! You're now in the great beyond. The speedrunning community calls spots like these heaven portals, because using them causes a vertical overflow that means you get teleported high into the air. Another portal in this level can be accessed by using the cannon near the floating island, looking up at said island, and aligning the bottom tip of the island and the upper arrow. Again, holding up will have you slide forwards and the game spits you out high into the air. If you actually control your descent, this can be used as an overly complicated way to scale the mountain. This glitch is handy with a skip we'll look at later, but a neat use of it is in Snowman's Land, where you could use that heaven portal to reach the Snowman's head star quickly during a 0 press challenge. The antithesis to the heaven portal is the hell portal, which is basically where you get warped to a spot that you can no longer fall back down from, like here in Cool Mountain, and another is here in Tick-Tock Clock. I don't know about you, but to me, something about Luigi and existential crisis in the void, it just makes sense. Anyways, let's talk about King Womp for a second. Sure, he wants to see you crushed underneath his majesty's blockiness, but that doesn't mean he deserves to be trapped up in his arena. Luckily, Adil found that if you get him to right about here, have him slam, and then ground pound on his back yourself, he can actually be free of his cage and then will menacingly follow you throughout the level. It's pretty neat to see him push past his underlings and even navigate up and down slopes. There's another glitch in this level, but this one requires you to use a red mushroom to become Gigantamaxed. Use the teleport to reach the top quickly and then walk against a wooden plank. This gives you 1-ups very quickly. It's pretty fun to listen to as well. As for something way less useful, Skiko now found that certain slopes can slow your walking speed enough that you'll actually start to moonwalk. I replicated this myself using both Luigi and even Yoshi. I guess this one makes him a smooth criminal. Anyways. Also slope related, after reaching the bottom of the secret slide, normally trying to walk back up causes you to immediately slide back. Instead, use the platform's wall on either side of the stairs to line your camera up, jump and hold down on the D-pad to turn around. Then after turning your camera to match, simply hold forward and as soon as you reach the slide, you'll slide upwards. I guess that since you're going perfectly straight, it can't decide whether to push you left or right, so you just sort of slide up. Unfortunately, as soon as you reach the bend and thus a change in the slide's geometry, you'll end up sliding back down, but still, it's pretty neat. Continuing the theme of slides, there's super sliding. So the footage you're seeing is from a nice demonstration video by Really Tall, but more or less, you can initiate this glitch by collecting the key in the castle grounds while in the water. Save and pause right after the selection text box closes, and then unpause. This lets Yoshi stay in the state he is while the key travels to him, which means that his speed is locked, and thus he can super slide. I am not good at describing this, and I suggest you check out the original video for some more context and a way better explanation, but now Yoshi is very momentumly challenged. It makes for a really odd sight. There's also frame sliding, though this is only possible in Mario 64 DS TASes, or tool-assisted speedruns. This glitch, or maybe more so a trick, was found by Sharky91, and it lets you maintain the speed and angle of your character while in motion, as well as go up very steep slopes, which also just looks really interesting. Oh, and while we're on the topic of TASes, shoutouts to Adil and his No Mario TAS for Behind the Waterfall using Yoshi. Normally you need Mario and his balloon power to reach the star, but it turns out that you can actually eat something and then jump within the following 2 frames. Using this, he can E-jump all the way up, which looks a lot like Galaxy's Infinite Flutter, but infinitely harder to do. Another Yoshi-only glitch can be done with the fire in the basement. Simply jump, flutter, and stick out your tongue, as well as Yoshi's tongue, to eat one fire as you get damaged by the other fire. With the right timing, this causes Yoshi's tongue to get stuck out, which is completely pointless, but it's fun to look at nonetheless. Unfortunately, this goes away as soon as you go through a loading zone. Now, here's something else using Yoshi, but in Cool Mountain. Again, I suggest checking out the original video, but it turns out that Yoshi's stand ability is to stop time. Oh, and after doing this glitch, if you hit the switch again, once the timer counts down, everything becomes frozen. Now, from stopping to fasting, this game has hyperspeed. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the hyperspeed walking, aka building up speed for 12 hours. Well, this is not too different. Hyperspeed can be performed in various locations, but this spot in the castle grounds lets you continuously build up speed. In this situation, hyperspeed is being used to reach the secret under the moat without WARUDO, which is also done before draining the moat. One side effect of hyperspeed running is that the character's model stops moving normally after a certain point. Anyways, here, Really Tall uses his speed to run over and along the outer wall of the map, at which point he starts to go even faster. In order to bypass the brick, you need a speed of around 5,400, which is over 100 times faster than long jumping. The whole thing is wild. You can also build up hyperspeed with a shell in order to fly very fast. Sure, the actual cap flying is limited, but in the brief moments during the jumps, he can absolutely soar. Oh, and for fun, here's an example of what it looks like when you build up speed for 15 minutes.
We need to talk about parallel universes.
Have you ever wanted to be able to freely walk underwater without a care in the world? No? Okay, too bad. First off, while playing around in the castle grounds, you can dive into this tree near the cannon like so, which lets you slide down under the ground. Now you can swim out of bounds, which is pretty neat. If this is done before the moat is drained, you can actually swim over and into the loading zone for the castle basement and then walk back out, assuming you have the key, in order to freely walk underwater. You can also use this underground pool glitch to access the cannon before it's been unlocked. Of course, if you're trying to go underwater, there is also the Yoshi shell method, which is basically where you spit out a shell so that it touches the ground in the first frame after being spit out, and thus it'll remain stationary, which also lets you ride it and thus walk underwater. Now, here's something odd. We're going to go back to that previously mentioned behind the waterfall area as WARUDO and walk up to the sign. Without exiting the sign's text box, turn your camera and you should see to your left some kind of strange object. Its position will remain fixed, but based on the angle you look at, it can be a coin, a red coin, a Babam Buddy, a Snuffit, or even a Babam Buddy inside of a red coin. As soon as you exit the sign, it'll go away. Doing this after having looked around will still reveal a strange object, but with a much tighter angle of viewing. I'm assuming this is due to some sort of weird object rendering issue. I'm not really sure, but it's spooky all the same. As for another object-related glitch, as Yoshi, if you try to toss your egg at the same time you land on an enemy that causes you to spin up, Yoshi will come down holding an invisible box. This is pretty neat because normally Yoshi cannot hold a box with his hands, let alone enemies. There's another Yoshi-specific glitch known as hands-free. Found by P_Yoshi, if you jump and throw your egg just after landing while holding an object, that object will become attached to you. In this instance, the shell cannot be used to interact with enemies, but you can kick and punch against it, which is pretty interesting on its own. Things get especially interesting when this glitch is used in conjunction with a couple others in Tall Mountain. First off, Skiko now, which I'm realizing I don't actually know if I'm pronouncing that right, so I'm sorry if I am not, lays an egg and uses the mushroom teleport to glitch the game into essentially submerging the level in water, allowing him to swim seemingly in thin air. Then he swims over and grabs the Chukya, and then moves towards the bridge, which drops him back onto solid ground. Then he performs the previously shown hands-free glitch, and boom, you got a Chukya attached to you. And then he performs a glitch to turn Yoshi invisible by going through the teleport spot while Gigantamaxed and pausing just as you teleport. Now it looks as if you're playing as the Chukya. Okay, so now for some more fun, here is a string of soft locks and crashes and weird stuff. This first one is pretty straightforward. Found by YouTube user The New Mighty Chalaza, if you take flight using the wing cap and fly into this corner above the castle grounds waterfall, you can get pretty easily stuck sliding in place. This isn't really a soft lock as you can exit the game, but it's weird nonetheless. You can also get permanently crushed if that's something you want to do. In Shifting Sandland, simply lower your health to 1 or 2 chunks, grab a box with some coins in it, and walk into the path of a rampaging tox box. It should crush you and at the same time break the box. This causes you to die but immediately collect a coin, making it so you can no longer move. And if you're curious, you can no longer be crushed, so you're not going to die if it rolls over you again. Shifting Sandland is also home to a surprisingly simple game freeze, but just be warned that this may corrupt your game's save files. Always glitch with caution, okay? So while playing on a 1.0 version of the game, enter any star except 1 or 5 and grab someone's cap and a non-bouncy box. With this, just stand somewhere where Klepto can get to you, and as soon as he hits you, the game should freeze. From SSL to SL, Snowman's Land is home to another potentially dangerous game freeze. So this one requires you to launch your cap-wearing self to the top of the mountain, let it get blown off by the big snowman, and then grab a box near the ice pile and yeet that sucker at the cap-wearing snowman. Put your cap back on and repeat. Each time you defeat the snowman, the number of caps that are dropped should double. Depending on your game's version, some different things can happen. After there's 16 caps on the ground, your game should begin to lag. After a certain threshold on the 1.0 version of the game, it will simply crash. Onwards, we're going to be looking at some useful glitches, but first, a tangentially related rabbit glitch. While waddling across the castle's courtyard, if you manage to grab this rabbit as Wario and get hit by Boo at the same time, it'll cause the rabbit to become its own kind of ghost, which just means it no longer has collision and will remain motionless. I bring this up because there is also a trick called rabbit manipulation. Really Tall found that you can manipulate the RNG, aka random number generator, for the glowing rabbits which are necessary for the 150 star speedrun, and Migu put together the demonstration of the following strat. So this comes into play later down the road after having talked to Toad in the minigame cabinet room to make rabbits spawn, as well as having at least 50 stars so that the glowing rabbits can spawn. Then you need to have caught the 3 rabbits that spawn in front of the castle as well as the 1 in the drained moat. Now, if you hard reset the game, enter versus mode, select a course, and soft reset, the left and right rabbits of the trio should be glowing, making getting all 8 way easier. This works because entering the versus mode and selecting a course actually sets the RNG to be exactly what you want for those 2 shiny rabbits. And even if you're not doing speedrun, this is a really handy way to save some headache. Next, the mirror room found on the 2nd floor of the castle is capable of being clipped through, which can make for some pretty interesting stuff. So this strat found by Aether requires you to set up your angle in this corner like so, to the left of the mirror, run, long jump, and then with the correct timing let go up on the D-pad and press it again mid-jump to soar right through. This is especially helpful in the 50-star speedrun as you normally need Luigi and his Power Flower ability to reach the star on the other side of the mirror, but with this, you can just skip him altogether. This also has the added benefit of letting you unlock Wario without having to first unlock Luigi, and then if you travel to Big Boo's haunt as Wario to unlock Luigi, once your reflection becomes Luigi, he'll have the biggest power stance ever. There's another form of clipping known as pause clipping, which was found fairly recently by Jordan Raggett. Put simply, if you have sufficient speed and pause right before you collide with certain objects, you can actually clip right through. This more or less works because pausing the game in many areas causes the camera to move far away. This causes certain objects like some blocks, signs, and so on to become intangible. When unpausing, if you're in motion with the right speed, you can slip through in that brief window before the game updates so that the object is tangible again. So this lets you access the secret under the moat with any character as well as the Bomb-On Battlefield cannon here without first needing to unlock it. Pause clipping also works when moving horizontally, as seen here, where the shell gives you enough speed to clip right through a block. It's also responsible for this very slick task of the blast away the wall star in Whomp's Fortress. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to Sneak Clip, which lets you reach the time jumps on moving bars star in Tick-Tock Clock without needing Wario or Luigi. It's pretty snazzy, am I right? No? Okay. Now we're approaching the end of the video, so it's time to look at some glitches relevant to the end of the game. So I showed off in my 2-year-old surface level and probably outdated beginner's guide to Super Mario 64 DS any percent speedrun video. You can actually clip through the corner along the stairs on the 3rd floor to access a heaven portal, which lets you reach the final Bowser level pipe without collecting the necessary stars. Well, this isn't actually the only way to get there. It's also possible to clip out of bounds and fall into the pipe as a character that isn't Mario, letting you beat the game with someone who isn't Mario, just like that. Now, as for the final battle itself, it's possible to mess with Bowser in 2 very different ways. First off, if you grab Bowser just as he jumps back from the void, he can gain the power of low gravity. Honestly, it looks sort of fun, not gonna lie. And finally, you can actually perform a glitch that I believe was found 14 years ago by Yodelerty. I'm sorry for that pronunciation. Simply grab him right as he lands and get shocked by the waves of electricity at the same time. If done right, this causes the hands-free glitch and he's now connected to Mario. Literally. You know what they say, keep your friends close and your enemies way closer. Well, I think that about does it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, maybe subscribe. Big shoutouts as always to my channel members, with especially big thanks to Christy Huntress and Pseudonymous for being super fans. That's about it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.